Hi, this is Kamera again. We're on day number 258. We're in a new book, Daniel 1 through 3. So this is the 27th book of the Bible. We've read over from Genesis all the way down to now Daniel. And so Daniel, he was one of the children of Judah, and he was taken into exile, captivity by Nebuchadnezzar. Had Nebuchadnezzar, when he first took the first set of captives, he had his chief of staff to go in and collect all of the royal sons, the ones who were intelligent and knowledgeable, wisdom and wise men. They also had to be healthy and good looking, and so Daniel was one of those who was taken. And so, yeah, that's where we are right now. So get this. When they first got there, okay, King said he wanted these men, these royal sons or men, he wanted them to learn their language, their literature. He wanted them taken care of. He wanted them to work in the palace. And so you got to look at that and say, you know what, I guess because he took everybody, he took the into captivity, the children of Judah, he needed someone to be on his team, I guess, to interpret, to learn the culture there. I'm assuming. So that would be Daniel and his friends and a few other people from Judah who were in the royal palace. And so the chief of staff was told to feed these royals the king's food. And so Daniel actually spoke up. He said that he talked to the chief of staff and said that he's never defiled his body, and he requested they allow him to eat his vegetables and water. That's all he wanted. And so the chief, even though he liked Daniel, in fact, God had given him favor where he really liked Daniel. And so he said he can't do that. The king will behead him. And so Daniel said, you know what, let's do this. How about you let me and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were also along with Daniel. He said, allow us to eat just our regular diet for 10 days. And if you don't see any improvement, then we'll go ahead and eat your king's food. And so after 10 days, the chief saw that Daniel, Shadrach, and Abednego was wiser, smarter. Their appearance was nicer. They excelled in everything, above the other guys. And so he changed everybody's diet. I just imagine what everybody else was like. Oh, he's just a killjoy. But anyway, so Daniel spoke up, and look what happened. Yeah, so further along, you'll see where the king Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and this dream disturbed him. So he called all the astrologers, he called the magicians, he called all the so-called wise men of Babylon. And these wise men, enchanters, sorcerers, astrologers, he told them to tell him his dream and then give him the interpretation. And so he was very serious. He said, if you can't do that, then I'm going to execute you, and I'm going to turn your house into rubble. And so these men were afraid. They're like, no king has ever asked of that. No one can do that. And so King Nebuchadnezzar sent out a decree to kill all the wise men. Okay, so get this. Daniel was one of the wise men that they sought to kill as well. So Daniel was like, what's going on? And so he was told what had happened. So what he did was he approached the king, and he told the king to give him an extra day to see if he can, if the Lord revealed to him what the dream was and interpretation was. And so the king went ahead and gave him extra time. And so when Daniel left there, he went and sought out his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and told them what was going on. And he urged them to pray for him that God revealed to him what he needed. And so that night, God did reveal to Daniel the dream. The Nebuchadnezzar's dream and the interpretation. And Daniel just praised God for that. He praised him for that. And so Daniel approached the king, and he told the king that he shouldn't kill anyone for not knowing that, because no enchanter, astrologer, none of them sorcerers would ever be able to interpret a dream like that, or even tell him what his dream was. Only God can do something like that. And so he went ahead and told him, the king, what God had revealed to him. And it was something that where when you read it, you'll see that it has something to do with Nebuchadnezzar and his future and the future of Babylon. So you do want to read that. And so this king was pretty impressed. He promoted Daniel to be over the entire province of Babylon. And so Daniel requested that his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be promoted as well. So they were in charge of the affairs of Babylon. So that was pretty cool, right? But Daniel get to live in the. I think if I'm not mistaken, he was able to even live in the palace. The other ones did not. And so there you go. Daniel just seeking God for direction, honoring God. Look how God is promoting him. And yeah, so I'm enjoying. I love the book of Daniel. And the last thing that it covered was when Nebuchadnezzar builds a statue. Statue was over 9 feet. No, was it 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide? And he called all the noblemen and the officers, people of all of the important people into a gathering, and he made a decree, and they sent out a proclamation that whenever you hear the music instruments play, the band, the orchestra, then everyone, race, gender, it doesn't even matter who it is, all over, it doesn't matter what religion you are, when you hear the music begin to play, you are to bow down to that statue of Nebuchadnezzar. If you do not, then you will be thrown into a fiery furnace and your house will be turned to rubble. So word got back that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not honor that. And so the king is furious now. So he calls Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he confronts them about that. And so they said, we're not going to even try and defend ourselves. We will never serve your idols or any statue except basically God. And so the king is furious. So what he does is, in fact, he was going to give him another chance, but they said they're not going to do it. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they basically told him that they're not going to worry about it. They told the king that our God is able to deliver us from that fiery furnace. But if he doesn't, we're still not going to, basically disrespect God and do something like that. And so this king's so upset. So he had them to turn that fiery furnace up seven times hotter. And so he took his strongest men in the army and had them to throw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fire furnace, fully clothed, turban and all, tied up and everything. And so the fire was so hot that those strong men, they were burnt alive. They were thrown back and burnt alive. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they made it into the fire. And so the king was like, he totally surprised at what he saw. He was astonished. And so he was like, wait. Didn't we throw 3 men into that fire furnace? I see 4, and one of them looked like a god. And so he calls them out, and he honors their God as he calls them out. And so, yeah, when they came out, everybody, all the important people surrounded them, and they were like, there was nothing burnt. Their hair wasn't singed. They didn't even smell like smoke. And so he sent out a decree that that no one should ever disrespect the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So I love the way. One thing I really love about that story, and I love the fact that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego says, we know that God is able to, but if he doesn't, we're going to stand firm. I love that. We're going to stand firm in our devotion to God. I absolutely love that. And under pressure, they know the king will kill them, but they weren't worried about it. Even if God don't, I'm not going to bow down to any other God besides God. I love that. And that's where we have to be. We need to check ourselves and ask ourselves the worst case scenario, would we really? And so would we really stay true to God? And that's a daily, everyday walk. That's a daily, everyday walk. Even when we choose, just, you know what? We have to ask God to help us to know who He is. Because once we know who He is, there's faith that comes with that. There's trust that comes there. There's love that comes with that. There's confidence in God. So if someone approaches us, we have confidence in knowing that God is who He said He is. Even if it's your time to go, you don't know, because God is able to deliver you from anything. He's the same God now as He was then. But if He chooses, this is your time to go, stand firm, because we all have to go anyway. So, but stand firm, knowing that is your time to go. Basically, if God don't, He's able to. So, there we have it. I absolutely love the book of Daniel. I love those three. The Daniel fast, though, right? Just vegetables and water for 10 days. And they looked healthier than anyone else. Their minds are more sharp and everything. Isn't that something? And then you have where the dreams, only dreams come from God, and the interpretation of dreams comes from God. That's what Daniel told the king, and he actually believed. I love the fact that he ran to his friends. First of all, he didn't just take it lying down. He actually talked to the king, and he was confident that God, if it's God's will, He will answer him. And he actually went and talked to his friends and urged his friends to pray for him, and God revealed Himself. And I love that. And I love the fact that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I love their faith in God. But let me point something else out to you guys. Remember, this is the book of Daniel. We've gone through the prophets, and this is during the time. This is the crazy part. This is the third year of Jehoiakim's reign. And the King Nebuchadnezzar had taken down Judah. Well, not taken down Judah, but had besieged Jerusalem. And so, so you have Daniel there. Is Jeremiah there? Jeremiah was 30, and I forgot what year he was in Babylon. And then, I'm talking not Jeremiah, but Ezekiel was in Babylon at that time, if I'm not mistaken. But then you had Jeremiah in Jerusalem at this time. So there's those prophets there, guys. I'm telling you, it's interesting as you read the word and naturally study it. It's good, and you see who He is, how faithful He is. But there you have it, guys. This is day number 258, Daniel chapter 1 through 3. You have a God-filled blessed day.